Hello everyone. In my last video, I introduced a situation that I'm going through called organized stalking. And I discussed a little bit about it, the fact that there's an ongoing investigation. I've been assured of that by police, that the FBI is involved. And I also talked about this investigation being lengthy, and quite possibly too lengthy, in my opinion. You see, while this investigation continues, I'm still exposed to those committing the crime. I'm still exposed to their surveillance equipment, so I have no privacy. I'm still exposed to the effects of that equipment, which are painful at times and life-threatening at times, and I'll talk more about those in a few minutes. But what I see is a situation where we have an investigation ongoing into something that's criminal, yet the crime continues, yet the assault continues. I don't believe this is normal in a police investigation. Usually the victim is put in a place of safety, and then an investigation ensues. So there's something very strange going on here, very strange to this situation. And I'd like to discuss today a little bit about my theory as to why that's happening. And that theory is based upon my observation of people who have used this type of equipment and its effect on the actual operator themselves. So the equipment that's being used is manufactured by a company called Tetra Systems, and it's designed to produce various effects on an individual. It's used for surveillance. It is pointed at the victim, the target, from a distance, and it produces a microwave carrier that couples with the brain. Once that carrier is placed or impinges on the brain, both information can be extracted. We've all seen the EEG, where brain waves are actually monitored kind of in a crude form, but the brain does produce an electromagnetic signal. Well, a microwave carrier coupling up to the brain can take that brainwave information and transmit it back to a receiver where it can be processed. So it can do surveillance on a person in the form of listening or receiving the information that's both audible and visual, i.e. that which a person hears can be heard and recorded. That which they see can be seen and recorded remotely. It's fairly advanced. What it can also do is transmit various effects. Audible effects, where that carrier is actually impinging on the nerves that go to the ears in the target, and then electrical impulses placed on those nerves that would be consistent with speech or other audible types of information. Various sounds can be placed on the ears. So it very much deprives a person of privacy, as well as can communicate with a person at a distance. In addition to communicate, could be used to harass. Now, once coupled to the central nervous system, the sky is the limit as far as what one can do. And this equipment is used to simulate mental illness in the target. And that's really what the stalkers want to do. They want to produce symptoms in that person that cause them to seek out help for mental illness, quite possibly medication, counseling. They want others around them to see them as mentally ill. So they produce symptoms like depression, anxiety, tremor, pain, heart symptoms. It can cause, in my opinion, life-threatening attacks to the heart. Other sensations. It's a seriously invasive tool. Now, why would you want to cause a person symptoms of mental illness? Well, in a stalking type situation, they want to cause a person difficulties in life. And I believe it's done for human research. So they take a person and they knock them down and they watch them get back up. And they do this again and again throughout their life. And each time they record the data, what it took to knock them down, and then how they behaved getting up. And so this goes on for a period of years. And as long as they're getting good data out of the target, they continue knocking them down and getting back up. And each time they get knocked down, of course, it's more difficult to get back up. Well, ultimately, they get to a point where they're not yielding good data. They're not getting up again. At that point, they want the target to have a history of mental illness. They want to have their friends, their family, to say, this person has obvious problems. We've tried to help them. We've done all these things. They just can't pull it together. And I fear the worst, because it's just going on and on. And they can't pull their life together. That people see them as weak, as incapable, when actually they're enduring extreme difficulty. If the truth were told, they're heroic. Well, ultimately, it's more than they can endure, more pain than they can endure, and they take their life. And that's how it ends. And it's referred to as taking them down hard. When they get to the point where they're not giving data anymore that's useful, then they're taken into a phase where they take them down hard. And that means they drive them into suicide, and it ends. I believe they're driven to suicide because they don't want people rebounding and unwinding and being able to tell of their story, such as, say, some of the MK Ultra victims were able to do. So with this equipment running, I can converse with the people at the other end. Not only can I converse with them, I disturb their equipment with my own. I have a number of transmitters that I use. I've been analyzing this equipment from a distance for a number of years, trying to understand how it works and what's happening. And I'm capable of disturbing it in different ways, such that it disturbs both the operator as well as the equipment in different ways. The signals that I have monitored from this equipment follow me everywhere I go, and I've used it to do some tracking. I've located them, reported them, and had them move to another location. So my theory here, why is this investigation going on? Well, from what I've seen on the other end, heard on the other end, from talking to a lot of different people over the years, often the people on the other end of this are operators that don't have much experience with the equipment. They don't seem to have formal training. It's handed to them. They've been given some instruction, and off they go. So they're trying to understand it, as am I. And often they'll work with me. Often we'll exchange information. Sometimes I'm teaching them things that I've already learned in an effort to better understand what it is that's happening here, how this equipment is affecting me, how it's affecting them, why this is ongoing. So it's been a process, and I try to be scientific about it. I try to not jump to conclusions. I look for consistency, repeatability, consistency of message over time, and repeatability over time. And so I try to take things that I conclude and shake them down to those which are reasonable to believe. And I think I have some of them. What I've seen on the other side of this, what seems most attractive to those that carry this out, is the mind-altering effects of the equipment itself. Not so much on me, but on them. You see, it's capable of producing depression, anxiety, pain, all kinds of horrible feelings. It also can be used in a drug-like way to produce euphoria, and for them, hypersexuality. And I've heard a lot about this from the people on the other end. And they all seem to enjoy using that equipment. Anyone that begins using it feels like they have to do it for the rest of their life. They enjoy it that much. And they all seem to love the euphoria, and they love the hypersexuality. And the hypersexuality, I believe, is an extreme attraction. I watched them starting in, say, 2012, learning how to make that device cause them hypersexuality. And then they began having sex with each other, the men with the men. And then in 2013, the women, some women got involved, and they determined how to make it to cause the women to be hypersexual. And ultimately it was as a big orgy on the other side, all day long. And it was kind of hard to believe, but it was as if I was coupled up here to a big orgy. Men with men and men with women. And all of them desiring sex all day long. Nothing very normal at all. But I began to see that as a major attraction. And it seemed as if the crowd kind of grew on the other side because of that. I began referring to it as the sex club, because that's indeed what it was. And to some degree, may still be. I certainly hear a lot of that type of thing happening. Maybe not what I observed in 2013, where people were naked all day long on the job, but certainly ongoing. And it seems like they are refining their capability of doing that, and it allows them to attract people to what they're doing, because it is a crime. It is a crime, and they have to. It seems like they have to provide them with something, a way of attracting them there. And I believe what they're doing all day is providing them some type of sexual stimulation. I certainly hear of it often. It seems like they've gotten it, they've honed it down to the point where they know how to do it to the men, they know how to do it to the women. And that's just something that has been ongoing. So, euphoria, hypersexuality, and addiction, another component, is the addictive properties, the drug-like effect. I've never seen or heard of a more powerful drug than I have seen in this device, or at least heard about in this device, but from an awful lot of people, an awful long-term observation. I think of a drug that one might consume or inject. It's a chemical, ultimately it alters the central nervous system in a way that makes them feel good, somehow good, and they enjoy that. Well, this goes directly to the central nervous system, and it can be tweaked and adjusted so that they get the feeling that they want. And I do believe a lot of them, the people that have been stalking me, they continue doing it because they love using this equipment so much. I also suspect that people that are getting involved investigating it are enjoying the same effects. And it goes on and on. I've been hesitant to put out a video like this, making such a statement, because the last thing I want to do is embarrass authorities that might be out there doing something good, at least have good intentions. I know in a lot of cases, if this is happening, there may be victims, and many victims. And I believe maybe a lot of them are intentionally victimized. So the last thing I want to do is further embarrass a victim. But the problem is, while this goes on, I don't get the happy effects on my end. I get pain. I get attacks to my heart. I work out every day, and when I get to peak exertion, they attack my heart, and I can't breathe. I get bouts of anxiety, depression, whatever is at their whim all day long. It's very uncomfortable, and I have no privacy. No privacy at all in my life. I get followed everywhere I go. I have equipment in my car that I can monitor their signals on, and they indeed follow me. And I try to disturb some things, but it's difficult. It's difficult for me to live with this ongoing. So as much as I don't want to embarrass authorities, the authorities need to do something to bring it to an end. I think it's quite the health concern. Now, in addition to the mind-altering effects from this equipment, there's the microwave signal that's transmitted from it. And from all I can gather, that can be varied in intensity depending on how far away the subject is. They leave that turned up all the way on high. Many people that have gotten involved, everyone that gets involved, speaks of eye problems, eye damage, after a very short amount of time. And some of the damage that they speak of appears certainly that it's going to be permanent. Now, my understanding of microwave radiation, because my field is radio communications, one of my fields, microwave radiation causes eye damage. The cornea of the eye is damaged very quickly by that radiation. It causes the small vessels in the cornea to heat up. You lose perfusion to those parts of the cornea from the vessels being damaged. And that part dies, and you form a cataract. And the longer one's exposed, the more serious that cataract is going to be. And I don't believe it's limited to just the lens of the eye, because they are getting a lot of exposure. And though they speak of having trouble seeing in the dark at night, and that could be from cataracts, could limit the amount of light getting to the eye. In addition, I suspect it might be damaging the iris in the same way, because people are talking about not only having a difficult time seeing where there's limited light, others I've heard from are having a difficult time seeing in bright light. They're having a lot of light sensitivity. So I wonder if the iris is not being damaged. And beyond that, the retina. Recently I read a paper from National Institute of Health, and I didn't have the entire story, I was only able to see part of it, but the gist of it was they're now believing that the retina is more sensitive to microwave radiation than the cornea. It just takes a little longer for that damage to show up. So, all in all, I think it's extremely dangerous from the standpoint of eye damage, the use of this equipment, since it's being used improperly. And when I say improperly, the operators are being exposed to excessive microwave radiation. And they want it that way because they want a coupling to their own minds, because it makes the job so much fun. So I think there certainly is a health aspect there. And beyond that, another health issue is cancer. One person that was involved for a long period of time, starting back in 2012, as of a year ago, he reported being covered with cancer from his face all the way down to his feet. And again, it's a fact that microwave radiation causes cancer. And I think it's also pretty much been established, at least in my mind, the operators of this equipment are getting an excessive dose. It seems, from all the people I've talked to on the other end of this, I haven't talked to anyone that seems to have the instruction manual. So I don't know how they're obtaining it. I don't know how they're obtaining the equipment, but they don't seem to have a lot of technical information. They don't seem to understand the dangers. And people seem to be sustaining real injury, certainly to the eyes. And I believe risk for cancer as well. Now, another thing I've noticed about these people that use this equipment. Well, first let me talk a little bit about another capability of it. If they take this device, point it at a person from a distance, and they put it on the subliminal setting, and they speak through it, the person does not hear it audibly on the other end. You feel it as a thought. It comes into the mind as a suggestion. It feels like your own brain is suggesting that very thing. So it's very, very dangerous. It can allow a person to focus this, say, on a conversation, and cause one of the individuals to have thoughts that aren't consistent with or originating from their own mind. And they'll end up saying things that they might normally not say. They might take the conversation or argument, let's say, into a direction they might normally not take it. They might take it farther, to the excess maybe. Now, if you want to make it more dangerous, if the one doing the manipulating wants to make it more dangerous, they can send emotion. They can send irritability, jabs of depression, anxiety, and then you ultimately can create a big disturbance in that discussion. Now, if someone's manipulating both sides, it can even be worse. But with a device like this, you can follow a person around and manipulate those that he or she would be dealing with and make them all uncooperative. It's really powerful. It's a real dangerous and horrible effect that it can have. I've had it used on many people that I've had to deal with. While I'm told, it's as a demonstration. I've had it demonstrated to me. While I'm told that it's being done, the person that I'm dealing with is uncooperative. And you can't tell them what's happening. They won't believe you. They'll be made not to believe you. So basically, they can shut you down. They can have everyone in your path be uncooperative if they want to. And so I would like to see this type of equipment outlawed, and I hope when my case comes out, and I believe it will, I hope it will come out in public, the capability of this type of equipment. I hope it will be shown how dangerous it is. I'd like to see legislation passed to prevent this type of equipment being used on a person, and quite possibly to prevent it from being possessed entirely, because I don't see any useful purpose for this in our society. And as I said, when someone is doing this to you, when they point it at you and they make a suggestion subaudibly, it feels like that suggestion originated from your own mind. And since we all have come to a point where we trust our own mind, we might say those things, we might act on those things too. And some people might act on them in a more extreme way than others. Some people may be able to be pushed to extremes by this type of manipulation, especially if they don't know it's being done. And that the ramifications of that are very, very big. Now, what I've seen in the people using this equipment, and I started looking for some of these things and noticing some of these things back in 2012. The people, since they're overexposed, since they're involved in the microwave field itself, it appears as if there's a passive thought transfer going on. It's capable, this device is capable of coupling to a brain and listening to the thought process and interpreting it as audible speech. And it's very, very invasive in that way. And it comes out of a speaker audibly on the device, the subconscious, the thought process. What I've seen in these people that are using this, it's as though they're sharing thoughts, them with each other, them with me. And I've seen that happen a lot. And they would start talking about things that were on my mind. And it was quite obvious that they were hearing them. They convinced me some time ago that they can do this, that it has this capability. And for them, it comes out of a speaker. So they're hearing those things. It's formulated into speech. However, with all of us in the microwave field, the same field that's processing what's in my mind, their minds, my theory is, and this I've seen a lot of data to support this theory, my theory is all of them, they are coupled up and connected to the microprocessor in this device, along with myself. And many times they've talked about things that I was thinking of. And I thought for a while, wow, my mind must be in the gutter more than I know. There must be some horrible things in my mind that I think of, that I originate. And it was a while before I started understanding that a lot of the things that they were hearing audibly weren't originated by me. They were originated by their own thinking. And I'm hearing it, and therefore that device is processing into audio just what I'm hearing. So they're hearing it coming out of the speaker, and they believe it's me. And especially a lot of the homosexual type of things that would come out, because, as I stated, the people on the other end are having sex with each other. Often they're just men. So I'm hearing a lot of these things. I have no interest in that area. Why all of these things coming out? So that's what got me to start to theorize as to how it were happening. A lot of things that didn't appear to originate with me, indeed, I was thinking about, and they were stating that it was coming out of the speaker. And I started realizing what was happening. We're all in this microwave field together, and that processor is processing everything that's in all of our minds. And it's what one might refer to as a synthetic telepathy. only and there's science behind it, and the science I'm understanding. So I'm kind of inundated with thoughts all day long, and I have to take all of that into subjection and determine which thoughts correspond with my values, which thoughts originated with me, and go with those. In addition, they're sending all kinds of different emotional type of effects. So I have to ignore emotions, and so it's been difficult. But I've been able to continue, and I thank God for that. It certainly is a very constant inundation of all these things. Everything from anxiety, depression, pain, tremor, attacks to my heart, and many thoughts that are constantly transmitted remotely that aren't originated from my own being, and it's creating a very difficult situation. It has, and as I said, I thank God that I've been able to continue with the inundation. However, what I see in the people on the other end, let's say you have 3 men on the other end, and they've been doing this for a little while. They all have sex with each other. They do it regularly. They're feeling good about it. Let's say a person comes along, and that person may say, and I've heard it many times, the 3 men might say they're homosexuals. That the other person would say, well, no, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm not that. However, when they move in close proximity to that equipment running, now they're coupled up passively to that microprocessor by the microwave carrier, and in a short amount of time they start being interested in the other's sexuality, and it's not that much longer before they're having sex with the other men there, and they're enjoying it. And what I see is that device, since the other men there are thinking positively about having sex with that newcomer starts having these positive thoughts of having sex with them. They just don't originate with that newcomer. And then when they do engage in that, the euphoria from the device, as well as this passive emotional thought transfer of the others enjoying it, and therefore this newcomer experiences enjoyment of that thing. And now they're kind of initiated, so to speak. And within a day or two, they believe